I'm gonna say this once, so listen carefully. Let her sleep, or else. Hello folks, I'm the Ghost with Knife, and welcome back to more Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. And today's video, as you saw in the intro, is going to be focusing on the Dreaming NEMLERIA cards that were released with the Super Heavy Samurai packs a little over a month ago. Now this is a very unique deck with a very fun gimmick that, in my opinion, actually has quite a bit of teeth to it. So much so that I think that this deck could actually be pretty powerful in the metagame of Yu-Gi-Oh! But what exactly does it do that makes it so powerful? Allow me to explain. The deck focuses on Dreaming NEMLERIA here, which is a very unique pendulum monster, meaning technically this is a pendulum deck. You put her into her scales, and from there you are allowed to grab from your deck the Dream Tower of Princess NEMLERIA. And then once you do that, she goes on top of your extra deck face up. Now the fun gimmick of the NEMLERIA deck is that once she's on top of your extra deck face up, she is quote unquote asleep. Meaning she's basically sleeping on top of this giant Dream Tower. The Dream Tower itself is represented by your extra deck. And as you can see with this, you can actually banish cards from your extra deck face down, which gets her closer and closer to the ground, which is a little bit relevant for her other effect. But before we get into that, why are we banishing stuff face down? Well, it's pretty simple. It means we can protect our monsters or go grab 2 level 10 beast monsters with different names from your deck. You know, like O'Reiler, which is a pretty powerful beefy monster that can get massive if your opponent has a bunch of cards. And also the Couette, which can allow us to negate stuff that targets our cards. Or more importantly, the Ravel, which allows us to set up our trap and gives us a really easy access monster that we can grab by just banishing cards from our extra deck face down, which we're already doing for the continuous spell. Anyways, and once you get him on board, you can get rid of another beast to go ahead and grab your trap, which gives us access to the Dreaming Reality Realize, which is essentially a Book of Moon on legs, which is pretty powerful. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, hey, we're going to be banishing a lot of cards from our extra deck. What happens when the extra deck is empty? Well, the tower has been reduced to nothing. And when that happens, you can special summon NEMLERIA, because now she is awake. You have not let her sleep, and her power will now be demonstrated to your opponent, because once she's special summoned from the extra deck, when it's empty except for her face up, you can, for every 3 cards that are banished face down that you own, you can banish one of your opponent's cards from their field or graveyard face down. And then afterwards, you just shuffle cards that are face down, banished on your end, back into your extra deck, which then you can use your Sweet Dreams from your graveyard to go ahead and put her back on top of, so you have access to all of your really ridiculous nonsense. That's right, once your extra deck is empty, you can use NEMLERIA to essentially wipe your opponent's board and graveyard of all the problem cards they have, and then just run them over with your big scary dream monsters. And since we're going to be doing so much banishing with this deck anyways, I also decided to use the old and incredibly powerful OTK on legs, Grand Maju Daiza, which as you can see is just a card that gets bigger for all of your banished monsters. This card is really interesting in the current meta of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a card that you normal summon that can just naturally run over whatever your opponent has in front of it. Oh, I'm sorry, is that an Avramax? I don't really care, because I've got this is a normal summon monster. Goodbye, Avramax. Oh, do you have something like a Blue Eyes Chaos Max that was just released in the new structure deck? I don't really care, because I'm bigger than Blue Eyes Chaos Max. Why not? And also, you're going to have a hard time running me over, because I just have so many big, beefy dream monsters. And because we're using Grand Maju, we have some pretty cool access to cards in our deck. Like things like Dimension Shifter, which is a pretty problematic card for a lot of people to deal with, or the Eater of Millions, which we can use to essentially clear our extra deck, so that way we can just activate NEMLERIA anyways to board wipe our opponent, and then use Grand Maju as a finisher, or even the almighty Gizmek Orochi, which gives this deck even more durability, which it already had thanks to the Dream Tower and the easy to recur Ravel. This is a very fun deck with a lot of really big and powerful monsters, and the best way to demonstrate just how much power this deck behind it is to show you some games. So without further ado, let's get into those games. Alright, so here we are, getting into our first game of the session. And before we go any further, I just wanted to go ahead and just show off the brand new board that you get from the 2nd anniversary bundle with that royal wear blue eyes. Came with some sleeves and some other nonsense, but just this board is so pretty, so sleek, so nice. And look, there's the moon to the right of us. We have the moon on our side, even though I'm pretty sure it's twice Stone of Legend, but shut up, now it's the moon, because it's funnier. And I also might have gotten a new mate, as you can tell. I couldn't resist. I really like the Unchained deck, okay? Anyways, getting into our standby phase, main phase of our opponent's turn, they're going to play one card in face-down defense position and pass, which is a terrifying prospect, in my honest opinion, but we don't really care. Now, normally what you should do in this situation is you should probably go Pot of Prosperity to dig for either Sweet Dreams or NEMLERIA herself, because we really want that card to go off, but I was nervous that I'd accidentally banish some stuff that I really didn't want to, because I forgot Prosperity banishes from the extra deck and not the main deck. I thought it was extravagance. This is just me being dumb. I should have done Prosperity in the first place. So we're going to go ahead and activate the Dream Tower, getting rid of 2 face down from our extra deck. We're going to go ahead and grab 1 Ravel and 1 O'Reiler, and then we're going to Pot of Prosperity into hopefully Sweet Dreams or the princess herself. Very Sweet Dreams, so now we can go ahead and do all of our nonsense plays, grabbing Sweet Dreams, which grabs us NEMLERIA, which unfortunately is going to grab us our other tower. So if they have like a Harpy's Feather Duster, we're in a bit of trouble, but hey, it's fine. We're going to go ahead and just grab this other card from our deck. Most importantly, so we can put NEMLERIA into our extra deck so that we can special summon O'Reiler. But first, we're going to use Ravel's effect to get rid of some more cards from our extra deck. Go ahead and special summon it. Use Ravel's effect to get rid of the other Raveler, so that way we can go ahead and grab the love in case we need it. And hey, look, I've also got a Gizmek Orochi, which is going to get rid of 8 more cards, giving us 20 cards in our banish zone, or 19. And then we're going to use a Whaler's effect to go ahead and get 20 cards in our banish zone. And hey, look at 8,000 attack, Brad Machu. What can my opponent do to live through this absolutely vicious barrage of... Oh. Great Isle Alligator. If it's destroyed by battle from the monster zone or spell effect, you can target a monster your opponent controls, equip it, and take control of them. Yeah, so whatever they grab here will guarantee that they live through our turn. And wouldn't you know, they grab Maju, who hilariously enough has 0 attack. Now, because of the pod that we use, our opponent's taking half damage, so they're going to make it through this turn no matter what. I was just really hoping that they wouldn't grab Grimmagia, then maybe we can get another 4,000 damage off. They set a card, and then they're done. They figured there's nothing more I can really do in this situation, because our opponent can just NEMLERIA anyways, and they go ahead and scoop. Alright, getting into our second game here, we're going first this time, and hey look, we got the Sweet Dreams. You know what that means? We're going to go ahead and grab another NEMLERIA. We're going to go ahead and activate NEMLERIA's effect, just in case they want to ash us. We're going to go ahead and use her effect. It doesn't really matter what happens here. Go ahead and get our stuff started. Go ahead and grab the Ravel and the Coet. I'm not quite sure why I grabbed Coet here. The other one is much better. I think I grabbed her just for stats. And then we're going to try in Small World here. We've gone ahead and banished quite a few cards to summon both of our monsters. The idea behind this is that I'm going to use Small World with our Dreaming NEMLERIA. And then we're going to use our other card to go ahead and grab the Nibiru from our deck. And the main reason I wanted to do this is basically mind games, so our opponent absolutely knows, hey, I've got Nibiru, don't mess with me. We're going to go ahead and pass to our opponent after we Small World, right after we use Ravel to set our trap, so that way now we have access to our Dreaming Reality, which is essentially a Book of Moon on legs. So we have a Droll, the Book of Moon on legs, and a Nibiru, and it's just like, okay, opponent, be that. And our opponent uses Brandon in High Spirits, which I can't do anything about. And they're going to go ahead and get Guiding Quem. And so in this moment, I'm like, okay, I have to just go ahead and troll them before it's too late. My opponent Then triple tactics thrusts us and grabs that grass. Looks greener, but Joel, why did you grab? Okay, and they scoop. I don't know why they did that, but they totally did. Alright, getting into game number 3, and look, we both have the board! You can see they've got the moon too! Anyways, gonna go ahead and use Sweet Dreams NEMLERIA to go ahead and grab NEMLERIA to try to do our nonsense here. We're gonna go into NEMLERIA, go ahead and get our big old line of cards, go and grab the Dream Tower, grab Ravo, grab O'Railer, summoning all 3 monsters. Big old board. Okay, opponent, deal with this. Go ahead and get our trap. And this trap is going to be really important because, like I said, this essentially gives us a Book of Moon on legs that our opponent kind of has to deal with, as our opponent, using the Blue Eyes sleeve and the Blue Eyes board, is going to go ahead and use Chalice Lime to grab Candle, which gives them the advanced ritual art. Now, when I saw this, I was like, what in the world are they going to ritual summon with a normal monster from their deck? But as you can see, our opponent is using the Blue Eyes sleeves and the Blue Eyes board. What do you think they're going to summon? But first, a Droll and Lopper to slow them down a little bit, and then they're going to go ahead and creature swap us, forcing the Candle onto our board. And I don't know why I gave them Ravel, but I did. And now they have a 2500 defense blocker and attacker. And from here, things look pretty grim because all they've got to do is advance ritual art in using the Blue Eyes to go ahead and summon Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon. An absolute menace of a card that does double piercing damage when attacking our opponent's defense position monsters, and it cannot be targeted with card effects, and it also cannot be destroyed by your opponent's cards. It feels like this game is just over, because all they've got to do is attack into our Candle and we lose. But I'm going to go ahead and activate NEMLERIA Love, and I'm going to special summon Dreaming Reality of NEMLERIA Realized, and oh look, change one other face-up monster on the field to face-down defense position. Notice it's missing that fun little target keyword. So, guess who can get put face down? I don't know why I banished the trap, but I did here. But yeah, that's a non-targeting ability. So we're going to go ahead and reduce that thing's attack, which I thought I could with the trap, I think. And then we're just going to go ahead and put Chaos Max face down. We're just going to go ahead and tribute off to summon the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon to try to get a little bit back into this game. They're going to go ahead and put Candle back into my hand. I'm going to use my Dreaming Reality in order to defend my monster. And our Dreaming Reality, the Dream Tower. The Dreaming Reality goes back to hand. We're going to go ahead and use the tower once again to go ahead and grab 2 of our monsters. 1 Ravel and 1 O'Railer. Use all this nonsense to go ahead and make ourselves a pretty big O'Railer to try to get over this Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. So that way Ravel can come out, and then Grand Marju himself is out here with 15,200 attack. And Jet Dragon has the ability, when it's attacked, to bounce a card back to your opponent's hand, which kind of sucks. It's fine though. We're going to go ahead and continue to try to beat down our opponent's life points here. We have 3 really big and hard to deal with monsters. I'm not quite sure what my opponent could do here. They're going to go ahead and try to Pot of Extravagance us, and we're just going to go, no, Ash Blossom, Alamau, get out of here with that nonsense, please. Thank you. Negating the Pot of Extravagance is massive here. And then our opponent is going to do something really interesting and then use Talismandra to go ahead and grab the Bookstone so they can re-grab their advanced ritual art. And because they have 2 monsters already out, I'm going to go ahead and use this card's ability just to give us a little bit more attack in case they want to attack into it, so we can take a little bit less damage. But more importantly, because it allows us to go into our extra deck a little bit deeper. We only have 1 card left. Our opponent is going to go ahead and try to use Bookstone here, using Candle's effect, revealing Bookstone. Go ahead and using Talismandra, which I don't think they can use again, but they're going to go ahead and advance Ritual Art into the high and mighty Chaos Max Dragon. They can't creature swap us and kill us, but they can attack our monster, and then we just banish the last card of our extra deck to protect it. And Halo's NEMLERIA is left, meaning as soon as it's our turn, we can summon NEMLERIA and non-targeted banish all 5 of these cards and just wipe our opponent out with the almighty Grenmaju. And there's not much my opponent can do from here, so my opponent, seeing the writing on the wall, decides to scoop it up. Alright, getting into our next game with the sleepy girl herself. We've got a pretty interesting hand here. Nothing really great for going second, no big board breakers. So whatever my opponent's going to be doing is going to be pretty much left unchecked. And of course my opponent is playing Magical Meltdown because I am playing Alistair, which is weird because this is not the first time I've seen Alistair recently in gold. I'm not really sure why the Invoke deck is so popular right now, and at least in my experience, but it very much is. I went ahead and looked at my opponent's deck before I loaded up this replay. They have a really weird deck with some like Despian stuff and like Dogmatica stuff. It's a weird jumble of cards, but it is mostly an Alistair the Invoker deck. They're going to go ahead and get their Invocation off, and you know what they're going to do. They're going to link off into Artemis. They could have done the Salamangreat monster if they wanted. I guess since they were going first, they wanted to go ahead and just go for the guaranteed Macabre, even though they could have gone the Salamangreat link 1 into Secure Gardena into Macabre. I don't know why they didn't do that, but yeah, they're going to go ahead, just go ahead. I don't know why I said go ahead twice, sorry about that. They're going to just play the Macabre, get their Invocation line off, play a face down card, and now my opponent has a mystery card and an Omni Negate ready to go, which puts me in a very precarious position. My opponent has the ability to stop a lot of my extension plays. Can this hand do literally anything against a Negate and whatever this could be, and potentially Ash Blossom, because, you know, they've got Ash Blossom sleeves. Of course they're going to be using it. So we're going to go ahead and draw into another Raveller, which is a really weird draw for us, because it means we don't need the tower to actually go off to do our nonsense, because we can special summon the monsters from our hand. But we do kind of want to get rid of this Macabre Negate as fast as possible, so I'm going to try to bait it with a Sweet Dreams NEMLERIA. They are not going to negate it, meaning I think that they don't have any spells. I'm going to go ahead and activate NEMLERIA, and now they're going to activate their Omni Negate by discarding Triple Tactics Talent, and my NEMLERIA gets banished. But Lamau, just kidding, I've got another one. We're going to go ahead and use the second NEMLERIA to go ahead and get our tower off. And of course, not only do they have Macabre, but they have the Ash Blossom. Who saw that coming? 2 negates, and it feels like all of my extension is gone, but Lamau, just kidding, I've got everything I need in my hand. We're going to go ahead and special summon Ravel. We're going to go ahead and summon the O'Reiler, and then we're going to go ahead and banish all of my extra deck, and a little bit of, actually I think just my extra deck, to the Eater of Millions. The Eater of Millions is going to get rid of everything out of my extra deck, making a gigantic Grenmaju. It's going to attack the Macabre and banish it face down. No more Macabre problems, and as I go in for the Grenmaju attack, my opponent is going to activate a 3rd negate in the Infinite Impermanence. Now, why did they negate Eater of Millions here? I'm not sure. I guess they... actually, that makes more sense to negate Grenmaju. Grenmaju is the threat here. And I'm really glad I went with Eater of Millions first to go ahead and remove Macabre from the board, so he has virtually no way of grabbing it back. But they are going to go ahead and negate Grenmaju, so he's going to harmlessly do 0 damage, but we're still going to rip through 5,000 of my opponent's life points. Going to go ahead and use Ravel to get our Louvre to set up our Book of Moon, our last little bit of control tech that we have. My opponent is going to go into Cartesia, which means they have some Despian nonsense. We're not quite out of the woods yet, so I see this and I'm like, dude, I have to go for it now. We're going to activate NEMLERIA Louvre. They're going to chain Cartesia's effect, which is going to summon the Dusk Dragon using the Invoker and Cartesia, a very powerful monster, but Louvre goes off and gets us our Reality Realized. They're going to go ahead and try to get their Fusion Summon off, but I'm just going to go ahead and put their card face down. Oh, my bad, it's not a fusion summon. They're gonna send a monster from their extra deck to the graveyard, and then they're gonna draw a card, because it's Garura! Meaning they're gonna dig a little bit deeper into their deck, and it doesn't matter, they do not find an answer, and they have a face-down Dust Dragon that can't really do anything in this situation. We're just gonna pound into it with the Eater of Millions, banish it, and then go for game with Grand Maju, or if I really wanted to, I could go for NEMLERIA plays, which I probably would have done instead. Alright, leading into our next game here, we have a pretty decent go first hand. We've got some nonsense we can do with Ash Blossom, and if we are uninterrupted, we can go ahead and go from NEMLERIA to Rayville, so we can get our Louvre off and get our Book of Moon off, essentially. So we're going to go ahead and do our nonsense, try to activate NEMLERIA to try to bait anything. They do not have an Ash Blossom, so I'm going to go ahead and do the NEMLERIA nonsense, go into the tower, use the tower to go ahead and get, I don't know what that lag was, Rayville and Orailer, as we most of the time do anyways. Use special summon the Orailer, go ahead and banish more cards, special summon the Rayville, get rid of Railer, and then we're going to go ahead and get the Louvre, and my opponent is stuck having to deal with essentially an untargetable Book of Moon, or a non-target Book of Moon, I should say, an Ash Blossom and an Nibiru, which is pretty hard to break through, especially if they're a very summon-heavy deck. Oh my god, it's an Emancipator, which I haven't seen a lot of these decks. I'm not quite sure how this deck works, but I do know that this is a tuner, and you typically need tuners face up in order to do any of your synchro nonsense, and I do know that Emancipators, my bad, have some very powerful synchro monsters, so I'm going to try to use this Louvre to the best of my abilities, and then of course my opponent plays Spiral Resort, which is a card that I've literally never seen until this game. I can't target other Spiral cards they control with card effects, which doesn't matter, I have a non-target Book of Moon anyways, but they're going to go ahead and try to get a search off, and I'm going to answer that with an Ash Blossom. I do not want them digging deeper into their deck. Hopefully this is enough to stop them from doing their nonsense so we can retaliate with our big monsters. And they're going to go ahead and do some spiral things, and basically what this allows them to do is allows them to look at the top 3 cards of our deck and then reorder them in any way they want, because spiral decks apparently really like revealing cards from the top of your opponent's deck, and if they get it whatever the card is right, they get special effects, and thanks to the little drone, they know I've got a monster on top, so we're going to go ahead and special summon their card. They're going to try to pop my Louvre. I'm going to go ahead and have to activate it here in response, which is fine. Our reality is realized. We're going to go ahead and flip their tuner face down. They've summoned 3 monsters this turn. They're going to go into a 4th monster here, Spiral Double Helix, which I have no clue what this card does, but it seems like it does a lot of nonsense. Hey, they know what the top card on my deck is. It's a spell card. They're going to go ahead and special summon with the drone, and from here, I'm like, look, you've summoned 5 monsters, you got 1 card left in hand, you can't have that much nonsense left, so what's going to happen is I'm going to try to Nibiru this board, and then I'm going to Radiant away the token, and kill Radiant with Nibiru, and try to go from there. Also, on top of this, after Nibiru kills Radiant, or before Nibiru kills Radiant, I can go ahead and just bring back Rayville for my graveyard, so none of this really matters anyways, but we don't even get that far, because my opponent's going to rearrange the top cards of my deck. I'm going to wipe everything off the board, except that face-down monster, which I didn't realize, and then my opponent is going to scoop anyways, because they really just do not want to deal with Nibiru, and we get a Nibiru Rage Quit, which is always just fun to do. Alright, getting into the last game here for our NEMLERIA deck replays. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and try to see what my opponent's up to. I'm going to try to use NEMLERIA to go ahead and get my other tower out of my deck. They've got nothing stopping me. So from here, we're just going to do our typical NEMLERIA stuff. Get Rayville and get an Orailer. We're going to use Orailer for Rayville's effect to get out our Louvre. Because even though we do have a pretty solid way to get a Book of Moon out, it is currently our only actual control piece, and hopefully we can time it with just enough timing that we can disrupt whatever our opponent is up to, and this is the best we can do with our current hand. Radiant Eater of Millions and Grand Maju is good, more so for going second. And of course, my opponent going second plays a Hero Lives. Half their life points for a free E-Hero monster. Oh boy, my favorite. Now, as my opponent continues to pop off here with their E-Hero monsters, some people have asked me, Ghost, why do you hate E-Heroes so much? I was around basically at the pinnacle of Absolute Zero, so I just have some PTSD flashbacks with Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. It's basically an older version of Mirror Jade, and it's super obnoxious, and I hate it. And every time I see Heroes, I think of that stupid card, and just how obnoxious it was the last time I played Yu-Gi-Oh! So yeah, every time I see E-Heroes, I'm reminded of that monster and the obnoxious amount of summoning they do, and that's just mainly the reason I don't like them. I know they're not a meta deck, God, Absolute Zero left a mental scar on me. Anyways, getting back into the game, our opponent has proceeded to pop off with all their E-Heroes. They've got a mass change in hand. They have polymerized into their Sunrise, which is actually a massive problem for me, because whenever any other hero attacks outside of Sunrise, he can destroy a card. He makes all of their other heroes even bigger, which is just really, really problematic for me. So as soon as Sunrise is summoned, I'm going to activate Louvre in response to his ability to grab Miracle Fusion. We're going to let them grab Miracle Fusion and just pray we have enough to deal with our opponent's nonsense. So we're going to go ahead and use a Reality Realize to flip Sunrise face down. They'd go ahead and mask change here. I guess they just want a bigger monster because they know they're about to lose Sunrise here, so they're going to go ahead and get rid of that and go into their Dark Law, which is actually kind of problematic because if we add cards from our hand to or from our deck to our hand, they can banish random cards from our hand to just completely disrupt our plays, which is, you know, another stumbling block for us to deal with. Sunrise goes face down though, so the ability to destroy my entire board is gone. They're gonna go ahead and Miracle Fusion. I'm hoping it's not something crazy like Tornado. No, it's this thing, which just gets bigger for each elemental hero we have. Okay. So, yeah, they're going to try to kill Ravel here, and I'm going to go ahead and banish my Louvre to reduce the attack of their monster. Do I need to do this? No, I'm just doing this because mostly I can. So our Reality Realized goes back to our hand, and from this position, well, it's pretty much over. We've got Eater Millions in hand, we've got Nemuria in the extra deck from last turn, so it's just a matter of taking care of anything that might be a problem on our opponent's board. So the game plan here is we're going to Radiant this Dark Law just in case, and then we're going to summon this Coed just in case to give us a little bit more protection, so that way we can go into our Eater of Millions, banish our extra deck, use NEMLERIA to banish all of their cards, and then summon Grand Maju and go for game. So let's see if this game plan can go into action, and let's just see the power of NEMLERIA. Boom, there goes Radiant. Go ahead using the Reality Realize to shuffle back our Ravel. So go ahead and put that monster face down just in case. Again, there's going to be a lot of just in case here. We get the Ravel. Gonna go ahead and summon the Ravel, banish some more cards. Summon the Coed for a little bit more protection just in case. Go ahead and banish the other tower from hand and my entire extra deck outside of NEMLERIA. NEMLERIA is by herself in the extra deck. She is now awake. The sleeping princess is angry, and somebody's gonna pay for it. It's gonna be those darn heroes as we banish their entire board. We're going to go ahead and put some stuff back into our extra deck and deck. We probably should have put everything back in the extra deck, but it doesn't matter because they have literally nothing stopping Grand Maju from finishing this game with an absolutely massive 5,600 attack. And that is the ideal Grand Maju NEMLERIA cleanup. Oh boy, is it absolutely beautiful to pull off. And now that we pulled it off and had our last game, let's go ahead and go into the wrap-up. Good night, NEMLERIA. Sweet dreams, dear princess. You've done a lot of work and shown a lot of people just how powerful your dreams can be. And with that, we put the NEMLERIA deck to bed for now. Now, as you saw with the games, this deck can do an absolute massive amount of work. The raw power of the Dream Monsters of NEMLERIA cards is really, really powerful. Combine that with the absolute magnificent threat that is Grand Maju, and you just have a really, really fun deck that can do some really, really silly things. We don't even have that many hand traps, but the hand traps we have are incredibly good in the current meta of Yu-Gi-Oh! Droll Lockbird is a card that's getting slowly better and better as stuff like Branded gets shifted out, and Super Heavy Samurais really don't like this card either. Ash Blossom is just a card that we can always use, and having access to Dimension Shifter is really, really powerful. We didn't get to showcase it in the games that I had, but I have definitely used D-Shifter, and people have just scooped this card, which has just been rather silly. And also we have access to more Nibirus than typical, which is a lot of fun. The one card that I feel like didn't do a lot of work in this particular deck is Small World. It's a card that I'm struggling to really see the value of. I understand the idea behind Small World. It's supposed to bridge to get you the cards you need in the moment, but I don't really ever get a lot of value in it. And I'm probably going to take this out for some imperms that I already own, or another copy of Ash and 2 imperms, or maybe another copy of Ash and 2 cold buys. I'm not quite sure yet. Even then, even with all that said, I should say, I had a lot of fun with the NEMLERIA deck, and I'm really impressed with the results that I had. And if you want to try this deck out for yourself, stick around, because we're about to go into a deck list. Thank you for tuning in. May you have pleasant dreams, have a wonderful day, and stick around for the deck list if you want it. So before we go into the deck list, I do want to say that this deck list is not my idea. I wanted to say that it was Crab Master Duel that I got this deck list from. I know, using another deck that a YouTuber did, shame on me, but I really wanted to try this deck, and I'm really happy with the way it worked, and I wanted to give credit to the proper creator of the deck list. So wherever I got the deck from, you're going to see a link in the description. You should check out the original video for the original deck list. You can see a little bit better, more gameplay for NEMLERIA, so you can decide if you want to try this deck yourself. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the actual deck list. Right now, we're using 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird, 2 copies of Eater of Millions, 3 copies of Grand Maju, 2 copies of Ash, 2 copies of Dimension Shifter, 2 copies of Irradian. We're doing this mostly for bridge targets for Small World, 2 copies of Gizmek Orochi, 2 copies of Dream Defender Orailer, 1 copy of NEMLERIA Dream Defender Coet, 2 copies of Dreaming Reality of NEMLERIA Realized, 2 copies of Prevail, 2 copies of Nibiru, 3 copies of Dreaming NEMLERIA, 1 copy of Pot of Desires, 1 copy of Extravagance, and 1 copy of Pot of Prosperity. We also have 3 copies of Small World, 3 copies of Sweet Dreams NEMLERIA, 2 copies of the Dream Tower Princess NEMLERIA, and 1 copy of NEMLERIA Love. And the extra deck does not matter. You can use whatever you want. I just wanted to use a bunch of funny fusion monsters that are old, because why not? These are all the things that, in my opinion, are her Dream Tower, and these are all the things that NEMLERIA is dreaming about. Thank you for tuning in again. I'll see you guys in the next video.